Episode 2 of Watson begins with a look at a man called Andrew Tanner, who returns to his house to find the door ajar. His partner, Kareen, is gone and a gunman appears. He shoots, and as the gunshot echoes in the air, we ominously appear to have our patient this week. Meanwhile, Watson and the gang discuss a patient with uncombable hair syndrome. Dr. Darian is pretty standoffish though through all of this, especially as Watson appears to know she's holding back and lying. A lot of this stems from Watson's character analysis of her last week. When she leaves, Shinwell arrives and expresses his concerns regarding Watson's mental state, especially given his brain injury. Our titular character shrugs it off, claiming that he's fine, but there are obviously doubts here. Our new case this week falls into Watson's lap, where he heads to the hospital to examine Andrew Tanner. The man works as a reenactment officer, playing the role of Patrick Ferguson, a captain in the 3rd Regiment. He's obviously survived a gunshot to the head, but when Watson first speaks to him, Tanner is convinced that he's never met his family. He appears to have shifted across to this Ferguson persona. The most noticeable diagnosis that the gang come up with is that this is something relating to the nerves inside his brain. Watson, though, thinks it goes deeper than that. The bullet is wedged inside his brain, so they need a very skilled surgeon to try and get it out. That falls to Dr. Brody Davis Emerson, or BDE as everybody seems to call him. However, he's not going to play ball. Instead, it's time for round 2 with Tanner. Watson shows up with the gang to his bedside, but this time he comes armed with a document full of facts about Patrick Ferguson. In asking his questions, Tanner's eyes begin darting from side to side. His accent also wavers, seeming to indicate that he's lying. He may just be putting on an act. Furthermore, Tanner also has the tremors in his right hand, which he's been disguising all this time. We soon learn that he's been holding a ball under the covers in the hospital. As we soon find out, this is because he has Huntington's disease. Meanwhile, Shinwell receives a visit from someone on behalf of Moriarty. He's got a task for Shinwell, and it involves switching out the pills Watson currently has for identical ones. Shinwell wrestles with the morality of all this, while Watson and Dr. Lubbock head to Andrew's place to look around. They notice that there were 2 shots fired, with the second occurring about an hour after the first. Furthermore, the liquor cabinet was opened and whiskey has been drunk. Watson deduces that everything was staged as a way of getting his family some insurance money, rather than dying from Huntington's and leaving them with nothing. Watson calls Tanner out for this and manages to stop the man from jumping off the hospital roof too. While talking though, Tanner suddenly starts seizuring. They have no choice but to operate. The man for the job is Dr. Niles, someone whom Dr. Darian has had ties with in the past. It's been 7 years since these two have known one another, and apparently Darian is responsible for his exile. He agrees to operate, but only if Darian admits the truth. While she initially says yes, when it comes crunch time, Darian maintains her innocence and betrays her old friend. The surgery is a success, but Dr. Niles refuses to work with the gang again, pointing out that Dr. Darian is dangerous and they need to be careful. As the episode closes out, Watson appears to take these new pills, in a blue bottle I may add, which throws question marks over exactly what this may mean for him. So Watson returns and the House MD influences continue. If anything, they exacerbate and become all-consuming. This is very much a house show, but with a Watson skin thrown in for good measure. The ex-wife angle and the banter that ensues here is very obviously emulating the relationship that Gregory House and Dr. Lisa Cuddy had. This time out we do learn a bit more about the gang, and the quirky humor attempts to add some charisma and charm into this, but the show feels empty and devoid of any real originality. You get the impression that this is a show designed to mine an IP rather than a genuine attempt at something unique and interesting. It's a shame too because, as I mentioned last week, we already had one show that tackled medical issues like this, the NBC series Brilliant Minds. The case this week is undoubtedly an interesting one though, and I'm sure there will be intriguing medical cases that we follow across the season. Quite how many people are going to stick with this one to see that through though remains to be seen.